Assalamu alaikum dear students. My name is Muhammad Asif and presenting the online video lecture series of visual programming. Students, this is our week number 3rd and lab number 5. Students, in our previous lab we have learned few topics, that is how to implement the loops in C# and types of loop, in which we have learned for loop, while loop, and at the end we have learned do while loop. In today's lab class, inshallah, we will be learning that what is nested loop and how it will be implemented in C#. So within the nested loop, we will be achieving this nested loop with the help of for loop, while loop, and the do while loop. So let's start. So students, we will be solving some examples in which few outputs is available. So first we will be implementing and achieving these outputs, in which include this one. Here we have 5 columns and 5 rows. So with the help of nested loop, we will be implementing these outputs. So let's start coding. So students, first we will be using the for loop. We will be having a 2 for loop. So to achieve that output, so let's say for initialization x is equal to, let's say 1, then x less than or equal to, let's say 5, because we have 5 columns, and x plus plus. Student, we have already learned in our theory class that we will be having a loop within the body of another loop. So we have another loop, initialization y is equal to 1 and y less than or equal to 5, y plus plus. So now we have another loop, and within the body we will be printing the desired output. This time I am using write function, double quotation, and printing the star, but between the stars we have 5 spaces. If you look at the output, so first star is printed, then between the star there is a 1 tab space available, mean 8 spaces. So spaces will be achieved with the help of /t. So first time y will be 1, the condition is true, and star will be printed. So the cursor will jump to the next on that line, but it will be appear 8 spaces. So when first star is printed, then the loop will go and increment the y variable. So again the condition will be 2, mean 2 is less than or equal to 5. Again the star will be printed, and so on. So after printing 1 line of stars, at the end loop will be ended. When the loop is ended, the control will go back to the outer loop, and the outer loop will again incremented by 1. The condition will be again true, but if it comes to the inner for loop, again it will start from y is equal to 1 and the condition is true, and star will be printed on the same line before it was printing. So to print the star on a next line, so at the end of inner loop we must have to break the line. For that purpose I am using the write line function. So write line function will break that row at the end of inner loop. So before going to the outer loop, first the cursor will go to the second line, and then the outer loop will be incremented and the condition will be true. Let's say 2 is less than or equal to 5, the condition is true. So again the inner loop will be printing again his operation. Let's say y is equal to 1, condition is true, x will be printed, but it will be on the next line at the start. So again the y will be incremented, the condition will be true, so star will be printed at the second line at the after the 8 spaces. So this operation will be continue until and unless the outer loop becomes false. So let's implement and run this code. Student, as you can see, we have just printed 5 columns and 5 rows. So with the help of inner loop, we have just printed this row, and after that row, when the inner loop is ended, we have just used the console.writeLine statement to break that row and start a new line. So again, with the help of inner loop, we have printed this line, and again when the inner loop finishes, or you can say it becomes a false, so going before to the outer loop, first it just break the line with the help of writeLine function, or you can also use a /n, so it comes to the third line and so on. So this is how the nested loop using for loop. So this loop will be called as a outer loop, and this loop will be called as a inner loop. After achieving the first output which was given on the slide, now let's come towards the second output, that is we have now in which we have 5 rows and almost 5 columns. First let's explain that how we will be achieving. If you can see that we have 1 star and then 2 stars, it means that the star is actually printing by the inner loop, but the control is always with the first loop. So first time the inner loop just printed 1 because the outer loop is initialized by 1. Second time when the first loop is exit, then the inner loop is exit, the outer loop becomes 2, so the 2 star is printed, and in the third line if you can see 3 star is printed, so the outer loop is actually initialized to 3, mean incremented to 3. That's why the inner loop printed 3 star and then 4 and then 5 star. So it means that the inner loop is here dependent on the outer loop. So now let's see that how it will be achieved. First let me comment this code. Now this time we will be achieving this output with the help of while loop. I hope everyone knows about the while loop syntax. First we will be initializing x, let's say 1, then while, let's say the condition is x less than or equal to 5, because the maximum star is printed is 5, that's why we are using the 5. Next, again within the outer loop we have another loop. First we will be initializing y is equal to 1, then while is a keyword, condition is will be the y is dependent on the x. Why I use this time x? Because according to the output we must have to use inner loop to depend on the outer loop. So first let's print the star. This time I'm using right again and printing star and /t for the spaces. and also also increment the inner loop with the 1, and when the line breaks, the inner loop is finishes, then before going to the outer loop we must have to break the line. So for this purpose I am again using a write line function, or you can also use the selection. So in first time, but before explaining my code, let me increment the outer loop first. So if you can see, first we have just initialized the outer loop with the 1 and the condition is true, then the control goes to the within the body of the outer loop. First initialize the inner loop, and here inner loop is dependent on the outer loop. So when the condition is true, let's say y is 1 and x is 1, so it means the inner loop will be executed one time only, so one star will be printed when the condition, when the y is incremented, so the condition become false and the control go to the write line function, and it will break the cursor from first line to the second line and initialize x with the 1. Now this time we have 2 less than or equal to 5, the condition is true. Again the inner loop will be initialized with the 1. Now this time y is 1 and x is 2, it means this loop will be executed 2 times and 2 star will be printed with the spaces, and so on. So at the end, when the x is 5, this inner loop will be executed 5 times, because x will be 5, then this loop will be executed 5 times and stars, 5 stars will be printed. So if you can see, we have just achieved the desired output. 1 star is printed on the first line, 2 star is printed on the second line, and so on. So now let's come towards the third example, which is this one. So here we are again printing the 1 and then 2 2 then 3 3, and at the last row we are just printing 5 columns but the value 5. So it looked like that this example is same like a previous one, but instead of printing star, now we will be printing 1 2 2 3 3. So now let's see how it will be achieved. So let's start, but before going towards to solve this example, first let me comment this code, and now this time it will be achieved with the help of a do while loop. So again, if you remember the syntax of do while loop, first we will be initializing, let's say x is equal to 1, and then do body will be started, and at the end of the body we will be having the condition and the semicolon. So x is less than or equal to, again we will be the condition will check up to 5 times. So come to the body of the the outer loop, we have again the inner loop, again x y is equal to 1, initialize with the 1, and we have a do keyword and while condition. Again we will be, the y will be dependent on the x because of the situation, because of the output. So within the body we will be printing console.write, instead of printing stars, now this time we will be printing 1, printing x. I will explain it later, but we will also use a /t for creating the space, and at the end, after this we will be incrementing the y, and also after exiting the inner loop we will be going to the next line. Let's say this time I am using the /n. Again this is used for the to break the line and increment x value. So this is how the nested loop using do while loop. First we have just initialized with the 1, do keyword is just started. Then within the body we have just again initialized the inner loop and we use the do loop again. So initialize y with the 1, and this again within the do loop the condition is checked at the end of the body. So the body will be executed first, so x will be printed, mean 1 will be printed because x is 1. When y is incremented, so 2 is less than or equal to 1, the inner loop will be exit, and the right function will be executed and the line will be break and x will be incremented. So again the control the condition will be checked first, so 2 is less than or equal to 5 and the control will go back at the start. So again the inner loop will be initialized with the 1 and x is printed, so this time x is 2 and y will be incremented, so 2 is less than or equal to x, so it x mean 2 is less than or equal to 2, so it will go back at the start. So again x will be printed, mean 2 will be printed, so 2 times 2 will be printed and y will be incremented, so 3 is less than or equal to 2, the condition become false. Again right function will be executed, so the line will be break and x will be incremented, the condition will be checked again, so 3 less than or equal to 5. So this process will go on. Now let's see and execute this code. So if you can see, we have just achieved the desired output. So students, so far we have solved 3 examples using for loop and while loop and do while loop to achieve the nested loop. So I think this is enough for today's lecture, and if you have any question you may ask me on my official email address, that is asif@northern.edu.pk. Thank you. Allah Hafiz.